back 100 years ago, it was farming. You know, government exists, other things exist, but we can farm and produce what we can, sell what we can, but just kind of leave us alone. I think nowadays, as farmers, because we're a small percentage of the population, there's more and more regulations. Farm Bureau helps to represent farming, represent farmers in interaction with government, the local level, at the state level, at the federal level.
Probably this Farm Bureau is the most controversial of all the Farm Bureaus in the state.
You know, it's everybody's holding hands in this in a way. Farm Bureau, Cooperative Extension, Department of Agriculture. I think there's a good communication between the three organizations and maybe more organizations than I'm aware of.
The Ag Commissioner and Farm Bureau have been working together for years.
Most of the old members are gone. Okay. And I think for their time they were pretty forward-looking. But now there are so many other issues that they didn't even dream it would happen that we have to deal with today. With the smog regulations, water, air quality, we have labor issues. They're much more intense than they were 30 years ago.
Man, it's amazing. The changes, you know, it's terrible. You know, instead of just going in and do the job, no, you got to get permits for this and permits for that. Then the state and the Corps don't get along. One wants the trees off, the other one wants to plant them. And I say, come on, you got to get along. It's so hard to do anything now. Regulations kill you.
They have caused us a lot of headaches and made rules where rules aren't really needed.
It's a frivolous issue. I've got 2 binders that are that thick that are based on food safety and how I'm supposed to take care of my orchard and for my cherries. And one of the things is you're not to have any dogs in the orchard. Well, I live in my orchard. My family lives in my orchard. We have dogs. It's very difficult to not have a dog in your orchard.
There are always going to be more regulations. It seems like as soon as, you know, one problem is solved or running smoothly, people go searching for more.
Superconducting super collider in San Joaquin County in strategic points, and it was going to affect the livelihood of many growers. And as a young board member, I was amazed at the passion of many Farm Bureau board members and members.
And that was going to pave a swath through the middle of all this farm ground. And it was a haphazard plan that they had, and 2 sides fighting each other. And the side pushing it was all about money. It was, and the side trying to fight it is more of a way of life, and to try to preserve a way of life that they were going to destroy. So I kind of found my way into that fight.
One of the issues, I was here during the Y2K change at the year 2000, when all the computers were supposed to crash, and nothing ever did.
The Chavez farm labor movement was really starting and rolling up a big head of steam. And all of agriculture is just up in arms. You know, they wanted to unionize the land.
One of the biggest ones was the Right to Farm Ordinance. We created an ordinance that was strengthened and made it very clear that San Joaquin County is a Right to Farm Ordinance. Smells, dust, bugs, those type of things, that's part of agriculture. It's part of the food that you eat.
Another project was Select San Joaquin. That was put together in a matter of 3 or 4 months. You know, highlights local products, encourage people to buy local. And Farm Bureau was instrumental in helping the Ag Commissioner's Office put that together.
We had the ESA event at the fairgrounds. That was a really big thing, and all the farmers brought their signs and spoke out about the Endangered Species Act.
The Delta Protection Commission, okay, we were instrumental in getting that passed for our senator at that time, Patrick Johnson. Okay, I mean, but we got what we wanted out of it.
A former board member, Brent Barton, called in. And Brent called in and said this wire theft issue is a killer. It was right before the California Farm Bureau's annual meeting, and it was just when the wire theft was really starting. We were able to get some language into the California Farm Bureau process that year. Policy language says this should be a priority issue. Next year there was legislation introduced and passed dealing with metal theft. It didn't completely solve the issue, but it, you know, just one phone call. That was obviously approved by the entire state of California delegation, and it ended up turning into legislation. So one voice can make a difference in Farm Bureau.
If you go back to the late 70s, it was a lot about innovation in agriculture, and there were water issues. Don't get me wrong, there were water issues back then. Oh, wait a minute, we're doing the same issue here in the Delta. It was a peripheral canal then, now it's called the tunnels. So it's what goes around comes around.
It is ironic when you go back to the 30s and the 40s and the 60s. Some of the newspapers could be the same. There's a labor issue, there's a water issue, there's a taxation issue.
They basically sent a letter to everybody that had riparian rights on the river saying you can't pump anymore. So then that kind of rankled some people, and they didn't know what to do and how to do it. And I said, well, why don't we see what the Farm Bureau can do? So one or two people came with me to one of the meetings one night, and we talked about it, and things continued from there, and they ended up backing down over it.
The diversity in this county is immense. You got the Delta on the west side, rangeland on the east, grapes up north, almonds in the south, many other crops. But Farm Bureau is the gel.
When we had Big Green, we held a $200,000 fundraiser to fight that. Okay. When we had the first peripheral canal, we got it on buses and went down to the Bay Area and walked precincts down there. Okay, we have a big ag in a classroom program here that some of the other counties don't have. So, I mean, there's a lot of things in this county that we do that a lot of other counties don't do, and a lot of them started right here.
Make a little money, keep some of it aside, because you're always going to have a dry year and you don't have enough to buy seed.
I am a fifth generation Lodian, and my great-grandmother was born here in 1856, and agriculture forever through the family and over the years. So if you don't have a little dirt under your fingernails, you're not welcome in my household. So.
Yeah, my dad, they used to ride the levee with a horse. In 38, we had high water. Then we got the weapon carrier, and then later, and now we got gravel levees. Before there was nothing on a levee but willow trees and dirt.
My dad was a member. He became a member in the in the early 50s, and his reasoning was at the time it was easier to get men out of the Bracero program if you were a Farm Bureau member. So he was a Farm Bureau member for over 60 years.
I asked my dad, I said, why do we belong to Farm Bureau? It's a do-nothing organization. And he said, really? Didn't say any more. And 2 nights later, I got a telephone call from Bob Carter and Vern Hoffman, wanted to know if they could come over and visit with me. Had them over for cake and coffee, and Senator Hoffman looked at me and says, I've been advised that you don't think that Farm Bureau is anything but a do-nothing organization. I said, you got it pretty much nailed on the head. I said, you sit around, bitch and bellyache about your own problems and why I'm not getting another $1 a ton for hay and those are stupid city people. And I said, you're not putting anything forth to create anything. That's good. He said, it's nice to condemn other people and then not do anything about it. So why don't you put your money where your mouth is and get involved in this program, and you make a difference? And, by the way, we'd like to have you come to the Campo Farm Center annual dinner, and that's how it all started.
Ronald Reagan was first running for governor. I remember I was a little kid, he came and spoke at Linden Farm Center. There was 50, 60 people there, and there was Ronald Reagan talking about how he was going to be what he was going to do when he became governor. When they first built the state office in Sacramento across from Cal Expo that first year during the state fair, they had a picnic, a Farm Bureau picnic, and Grandma and Grandpa took us all up there, and Governor Brown, his first time around, spoke to us at that picnic. We were along the river there at Cal Expo.
Talking about action is Molly Watkins and went to Monterey with a group of people and saw what they were doing there for a school field trip for third graders to teach them about agriculture. And she came back and said, I think it was January, she said, let's do this in March. I said, no way, there's no way you can do it. Well, we had it in March. We had 3,000 kids come to the Great Festival Grounds in Lodi, and we had ag displays and presentations, and it's been history since then. We've done 3 a year.
Our historical
landmarks. And thinking back to, Newt Robinson, George Perry.
And bringing the pumpkin industry together in California. He really was the guy. Yeah. They call him the Pumpkin King.
When it first started, Half Moon Bay had buckets and stuff there. A fella named Pat O'Leary, and he was quite of a guy. And he'd always be writing stories about me and another guy. And he says we should go down there and challenge him.
The challenge was over who was the pumpkin capital. Was it Half Moon Bay or was it Antigua?
So there was a limousine waiting for the main guys, and I got in it, and I says, "This don't belong to the Undertaker, does it?" And he says, "Yes, it does." It got out. I got the publicity.
I consider myself a pretty good hand, but these two wouldn't even make one of my dads.
Dad is a 6-time undefeated world hand milking champion.
By winning the California champion in 1968, put me where I could compete against the world champion, and I won the contest that day by 2.5 pounds.
I know Dad is in the Guinness Book of World Records.
It's still there.
For the most amount of milk milked in 2 minutes.
It was over 17 pounds of milk. After that book was published, I hit 20 pounds of milk.
You see the picture of the stream of milk or whatever, it's a stream of milk that doesn't stop.